Hey guys, this is Stacy from eatthebite.com, and today I'm making Moroccan spiced phyllo meat pie. Let me show you how to make it. At the beginning of the process, I need to soak some saffron in warm water. I have this beautiful saffron my friend brought me from Iran, so I'll be using that. You only need a small amount for this, so I'm going to take a few small pinches to fill my measuring spoon. And then I'm going to add that to some warm water. And then I'm going to let that steep on the counter while I do my other prep work. Also, saffron can be pricey, but I found that most stores carry the Badia brand of less expensive spices, and they offer a very affordable package of saffron, so this would be a good option to consider. Next, I'm going to take one medium onion, cut it in half, and then I'm going to slice it in thin strips. They should look about like this when you're done. I'll put those in a pan with a little butter, olive oil, salt, and pepper. You'll need 2 large pans for this. I've got my onions cooking in one, and the butter is melted, so I'm giving them a stir. And I've added my ground beef to the other, and you'll need to chop this down until the beef is crumbly. You should continue breaking it down with a spatula or wooden spoon throughout the cooking process. While the onions and beef are cooking, I'm chopping my cilantro. I had a small bunch, so I chopped off about 3/4 of it, and now I'm chopping that down finely. Once that's done, I'll set that aside for now. I'm also peeling the skin off a chunk of ginger, which you can do with a peeler like this, or you can slice it off with a knife. Once it's peeled, I'm going to run it across my microplane. And once I have all that I need, I'll set that aside. The ground beef and onions are almost finished. I'm chopping down the beef one final time and giving the onions another toss around the pan. Then I'll add the ginger to the middle of the pan, along with a splash of olive oil. And you'll want to cook that about 30 to 60 seconds until it's fragrant. While that's happening, I'm removing most of the fat from the beef pan. So I'll carefully tilt the pan and let the fat fall to one side. Then I'm going to take a large spoon and start transferring the fat to a small bowl. As you can see, there's quite a bit of fat here, and we don't want all that fat in our meat pie, but I will leave behind a tiny amount of it. I'll give my onions a good stir to incorporate it with the ginger, and then I'm going to let that cook for a couple of minutes. Now I'll add my ras al hanout, which is a Moroccan spice that contains things like cumin, ginger, cinnamon, and coriander. I'm going to add a tablespoon plus 1 teaspoon of that, a little cinnamon, and now it's time for that beautiful saffron water I've had steeping on the counter. I love that color. So I'm going to pour that over the meat. Then I'll add my cilantro. Now you want to give it a good mix around the pan. After that, we're going to add the onion and ginger. And we want to give this a good mix around until everything is well combined. Then we're going to season with a little bit of salt and sugar. And now I'll give it one final mix. It's really important that you give it a taste here to see if you want to adjust any seasoning. So I tasted it and I thought it tasted great as it is. So now it's time to assemble the pie. You'll need some melted butter and a pastry brush for this, since we have to spread the butter in the layers of the phyllo dough as we assemble the pie. I found that using non-stick spray on the bottom of the pan works better than butter, so it's not as greasy on the bottom. Phyllo dough is very delicate, so handle this with care. I'll lay down one sheet and then another overlapping it so that the phyllo dough is hanging from both sides of the pie. I'm going to take my pastry brush and gently brush the butter on the bottom and the sides of this layer. Then I'll add 2 more sheets of phyllo dough so the dough is overlapping on the 2 ends of the baking dish this time. I'll skip the butter on this layer and then add 2 more sheets of phyllo dough overlapping each other so the dough is hanging off the sides again. Then I'll brush butter gently over the bottom and sides of this layer of phyllo dough. If you get a little hole in the phyllo dough, do not worry, this is normal. I just ripped little pieces from a larger sheet and patched the holes like you see here. It's bound to happen since this is phyllo dough and it's very delicate. So we've got our incredibly delicious meat filling for our pie, and I'm just going to tilt my pan slightly and pour all the meat right into the pie. After that, you're going to smooth it out with a spatula so the meat is evenly distributed. Next, we'll simply fold over the phyllo dough that's hanging over the sides and the ends. Once that's done, I'm going to add a sheet of phyllo dough to the top, just like this. Then I'm going to brush that with the melted butter. And after that layer is covered in the butter, we'll put another sheet on top of that. Now we'll add one final sheet of phyllo dough. We'll press it gently, and then one final butter brushing. After we do that last butter, we're going to fold in the sides and the ends, and then we'll brush over the sides and the ends with a little bit more butter. Once the whole top layer is coated in the butter, it's time to score the pie. It's necessary to do this because once the pie is cooked, it will be very messy and pretty much impossible to cut the phyllo dough, and it will greatly compromise the presentation. So, we're going to cut the pie into 12 squares like you see here before it goes in the oven. And now we're ready to bake this in a preheated oven at 375 degrees for about 30 to 40 minutes. The phyllo dough should be golden brown when it's done, like this. So here's our phyllo meat pie right out of the oven, and the smell is so incredible. So now it's definitely time to eat the bite. And I will leave you with the live commentary of me sampling this incredibly delicious meat pie. I hope you enjoy, and thanks for watching.
See, that pre-scoring it really is the answer. Let's take a look here. Hopefully it's steaming a little bit. I'm not steaming out my lens right now. I don't want to drop it either. It's really hot. Can I? I can't. It's too hot. It's only been cooling about 10 minutes. All right, I'm going in. Oh my God. I'm going to tell you something. Meat pies are a revelation. I absolutely love meat pies. And I love this sort of like this Moroccan spice, Ras Al Hanout. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. If not, I'm sure the internet will respond. This is such a delightful spice. And, you know, and that little bit of ginger we put in there, just the 2 teaspoons. It's a hint of ginger. It's there, but it's subtle. And the saffron and the onions. Oh my God. Really. Oh, and really the cilantro. Perfect amount of cilantro. It's like if you have someone who hates cilantro and you didn't tell them cilantro was in it, they wouldn't know. And we've all done that. What is that? Cilantro? No. It's parsley. Sure. You can eat this as a snack. You can serve it as an hors d'oeuvre, although these portions are a bit big for hors d'oeuvre category. But oh, don't you dare fall! Don't you dare fall! In fact, I'm going to hold you up with my fingers for the whole world to see. So you can see the bottom. Got nice and crisp on the bottom too. Just nice and crisp on the bottom. And when I tested this recipe, which I don't always do, if you're a regular reader of my website, I don't always test my recipes first. But I did test this one because I was a little nervous. I never cook with phyllo dough. Really, not too much. And I added a teaspoon of salt to the burger mix. And it was too much. So I know you're going to see that recipe and think, how can it just be a half a teaspoon of salt? Well, remember, I used a half a teaspoon of salt in when I cooked the onions. And I really think it's the perfect amount of salt. And I love that little bit of addition of the sugar because you don't really know it's there, but you know something's there. And I think it just balances everything out so nicely. But I'm going to steal that last little bit of beef, even if it technically belonged to that square. Who's going to know? We're done. And I hope you give this one a try. It's really, really, really delicious. I look forward to making this many more times in the future. Okay, I do my photos now.